Welcome back to this episode of the Habs Fan Forum. I'm Ben Dankyu, your host, and here at the Habs Fan Forum, this is where us fans get to have our voices heard. Alright, so let's talk about those Montreal Canadiens. On today's episode, we're going to be going into my mock line combinations, my lineups, both forward and defense, and what my wish list is going into day one. Not necessarily what I think Dom Ducharme is going to do, but more so what I want to see happen. Before I get into that, I want to tell you quickly about our sponsor, DraftKings. The Habs Fan Forum is proudly a part of Rocket Sports Media and the Hockey Podcast Network, and is sponsored by DraftKings, who is the daily leader in fantasy sports. They literally make payday every day. It's crazy. They paid out something over $7 billion across all sports and users, which is a lot of money. So right now, if you want to try your hand at it, you can download DraftKings, use the promo code THPN, and potentially get some of your own free prizes too. Alright, let's get to this mock lineup. I'm going to preface a few things just going in. One, I'm assuming Byron and Weber are going to be on LTIR. Pretty obvious. Two, Kotkaniemi and Pairings, they're going to get re-signed. For what number and when, who knows, but I'm going to imagine they're re-signed. Three, I didn't go too deep into junior level prospects like Gooley, Fairbrother, and some of those young developing D-men or core that could crack the lineup in training camp, who knows, but I'm assuming they're going to let them develop longer. And finally, Drouin. This might be a little bit of a controversial one because he obviously is talented enough to make it into this lineup, but I just don't see him fitting in this team, and for the purpose of his exercise, I'm actually going to leave him off the lineup. If he was in there, he would probably slot in at my second line left wing, but just to make things easy for this lineup and making this mesh, he's out. Alright, so let's start with the forwards. First line, I'm not going off the board here. It's probably a pretty consensus top line overall. We got left side, Tyler Toffoli, goal scoring touch. Centerman, we got Nick Suzuki. He's that first line center. He's shown it. This is going to be a big year for him. And right side, we have Cole Caulfield, who played his way into this lineup in the playoffs. And you know what? If it isn't broken, don't fix it. So leaving them as my top line. Second line, we have Mike Hoffman, newly acquired goal scoring winger on the left side. Center, Kotkaniemi sliding up into that second line center. This is the year they give him the minutes. He can start developing and show his true potential. On the right side, we have Josh Anderson. At first, I kind of tossed around Josh Anderson and Brendan Gallagher here, but for reasons I'll explain in a second, I think Gallagher can fit on that third line. On that second line, you got a power forward in Josh Anderson. I think he'll play better higher in the lineup. He kind of plays up to the people around him. So having Kotkaniemi, who he's had some success with, and Hoffman as a goal scorer on that line, big things to come. So third line, this is going to be a pest of a line to play against. Yes, it's got some guys like Gallagher who could play up the lineup, but no, this was a line that I thought jailed. We got left side, Arturi Lehkonen, center, Jake Evans, and right side, Brendan Gallagher. Jake Evans showing last year that he can play up into this third line. Arturi Lehkonen, same thing. Is there a better forechecker, a better presence on that third line? And of course, Brendan Gallagher, who can score some dirty goals. So you got a really interesting, you have like a top 9 here in the Habs that is dangerous throughout. And then finally, on that fourth line, you have Pairings on the left side, Paquette down the center, and Armia in the right. Armia, who can play up the lineup as needed. Paquette, who will be like a face-off guy, but also a penalty killer. And then, of course, Pairings, who might be a little controversial. Some people might slot in Perreault here. I think Pairings might potentially make this team out of training camp. And if he doesn't, then Perreault is taking this spot here. He's my 13th forward. So that's my forward core. Now, on to the defense. This was a little trickier. As Rick Stevens and Joseph Whalen were talking about on this week's edition of the Canadiens Connection, it's almost like you have a puzzle that's missing a piece. I totally get that because I'm moving around parts and pieces, and there's lots of great pieces, but I'm trying to fit things, and I'm like, that doesn't quite fit there. So I know this lineup's not done yet, so this is very early, but for now, I'm going to stick with left side, Joel Edmondson. Right side, Jeff Petrie. They played real well together on that second unit last year, and we've seen Jeff Petrie play first line minutes. Can he bring Joel Edmondson with him? I think the chemistry between the two, maybe he can. Second pairing, we have Sherratt on the left side. He actually showed he can play first line minutes when playing alongside a beast like Weber. What happens if you slot him on the other side of an Alexander Romanov? Now, I know a lot of people are going to have him in your third pairing. I'm just hoping he breaks out and shows he can have that top four quality to him already. He's eventually going to be a top 4D. When's the time? I'm saying now, and one of the reasons being is this next line, I don't want to see them in the top four. They're good depth pieces, and really they'll play great on this third pairing. You have Savard playing on that third pair, newly signed. I have him on the right side, and then also newly signed Chris Weidman playing on the left. Now, it does leave out Kulak, who is a very serviceable 7th D. I would have him there to play into that third pair as needed, whether Weidman or, Savard will likely move up before he moves down, but Kulak's in the wing. Now, interesting little sleeper pick here is Matthias Norlinder. If he comes back from loan, he has a good chance of making this lineup. Love to see where that would slot in, potentially over Weidman. Have Weidman as that 7th D, and then that makes Kulak a little bit more expendable. So summarizing these lines, we can see some serious depth at wing that hints at a potential move from one of these wingers in the future, hopefully to bring in a top 4D, because that would be huge. Some sort of package with a winger and Kulak, Drouin, who knows what they're going to make up, but that would be great. It's really interesting to see how the Habs have changed over the last few years. They've been known for not having goal scorers, yet now they have like 5 potential 30-goal scorers, and Hoffman, Caulfield, Toffoli, Anderson, Gallagher. Those are guys who either have or have shown potential of putting 30 goals in the net. Then you also have a young developing center, like 1, 2, 3 is all very under 25 or 20 or close. I think Evans is around 25. And then a defensive group that has a lot of great pieces. Those Clydesdales were all big last year. They're missing Weber though, so there's a big question mark. Another top 4D sliding into this group would let everyone play into the positions I think they should play into. So the Habs definitely, hopefully, aren't done this year. I hope they make some moves. And closer to opening night, I can put together the real roster of who I think is going to be starting. That being said, that is it for this week's edition of the Habs Fan Forum. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked the video, just like down below. Please share and tell your friends. And hit that little subscribe bell to get notified of future episodes. You can also follow All Habs or go to allhabs.net for the best Montreal Canadiens coverage. All right, I'm Ben Dankyu, and once again, woo! Go Habs, go!